Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Savvy Report. I'm Ernie Martin, founder and managing director of Receivable Savvy, where we provide research and best practice to help master the order-to-cash process. Today, we're speaking with Tara Bertishaw, supply chain management consultant and founder of Bertishaw Supply Chain Solutions. Hello, Tara, and welcome to the Savvy Report.
Hi, Ernie. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you, and thank you for carving out time to sit with us today. And so tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, what you actually do in relation to supply chain management consulting.
So I have been in corporate America for about 22 years, and really managing end-to-end supply chain. So logistics, procurement, inventory optimization, planning, so demand planning, supply planning, sales and operation planning, anything under the supply chain umbrella.
Right.
Like I said, for over 20 years, variety of industries, small, medium, large size companies. Left that last year and started my own company, Bertishaw Supply Chain Solutions. And now I'm really focused on helping my clients really with anything, again, under the supply chain umbrella. So they need process improvement work, or help, if they need, technology help, anything they need, I can provide under that supply chain umbrella.
Right. Good. Excellent. And so is there a particular focus in terms of industry, or is your expertise across multiple industries?
It's really multiple industries. Like I said, I've been in multiple industries. So, I mean, the supply chain is supply chain. So I can definitely adapt to any industry, and really any size company.
Okay, excellent. And so there are a lot of challenges organizations face when establishing and strengthening their supply chains, right? And so from your perspective, with your decades of experience, what are the 2 to 3 biggest challenges organizations face regarding the management of their supply chain?
Well, I think at a high level, Ernie, it's been a crazy couple of years. Like everybody knows, the supply chain has been in complete chaos.
Yep.
We're still seeing, the impacts of COVID, and will potentially for another, couple of years. I'm, not quite sure on the timing on that.
Right.
But really, I think COVID really made a big shift in supply chain, put it into the forefront, actually, which was a good thing. But
Right.
I think before COVID, a lot of companies were just kind of managing day to day. They really didn't have a lot of processes in place or plans, things like that. And so, after all the production shutdowns worldwide, the labor issues we've seen, both domestically and internationally, a bottleneck supply chain when products started to move. We've all seen all the ports and how backed up they are, right, with all the ships trying to get in and unload. They, like I said, they really realized at that point they didn't have the processes in place, or sometimes even the right technology to really be agile enough for things like this that were really out of the ordinary. Things like that were happening. So I think lack of planning, inventory management, lack of processes, like I said, was really thrown into the spotlight. So I think that's been a big challenge for companies, and I think they are managing through that. But it was very, this kind of happened very quickly, and the companies that weren't agile enough really felt the impact.
Right. Absolutely. And so if your organization's not prepared and is not faced with all these pressures, then when it does happen, you've either got to turn on a dime, so to speak, or get left behind. And so, and have you seen a number of companies in their struggles sort of get left behind to some degree in your observations across multiple industries?
Definitely. So I think with the lack of processes and, like I said, flexibility and agility, a lot of companies were, unfortunately. I think most of them that I've seen are bouncing back, but it's definitely taken a lot longer because not only did they have to recover, right, get the product in, get their customers back in stock, they also had to begin putting those processes in place or looking at technology. So they're trying to scramble to do all of that stuff at one time.
Right.
So they certainly were. I mean, I know, some businesses, obviously did go out of business. But for the most part, I think, companies, realized pretty quickly what needed to happen, or the ones I've seen anyway. And they did start to make that change.
Right. We sort of see the shakeout, if you will, every 10 or so years. We saw it during the Great Recession. A lot of organizations went out of business, and those who scrambled and can pivot on a dime, they survive. And we're seeing sort of similar things now with post-COVID, and now with other issues around supply chain back stoppages and backlogs, as well as inflation. Inflation is having a serious impact too. And so what are some of those things customers want from their supply chain, from your perspective?
So customers really want to view their suppliers as a partner. I think a lot of the times historically it's really been about price, and price only, or price at the top without consideration of other factors.
Right.
So I think at this point customers are really looking, like I said, to form that relationship with their suppliers. So from my perspective, suppliers should be offering innovative ideas, working with the customers, and internally to improve processes that drive efficiency. Obviously, customers want to reduce cost and drive sustainability. So I think suppliers and customers working together on that is really kind of how we need to move forward at this point. A couple of examples of that is, during the past several years, I've worked with many of my plastic suppliers. We looked at reducing the amount of resin in, say, the plastic bottles I was using. That obviously reduced costs. It lessened the carbon footprint from a sustainability standpoint. Right. And then I also worked with some of my corrugate suppliers to reduce the flute and board weight, really for the same reason. So again, just having that partnership with them and working together, on all different aspects of that relationship, not just price alone.
Right. And so you touch on an interesting point in terms of sustainability. And so from a customer's perspective, are you seeing customers ask their suppliers and participants in their supply chain to be more green as time goes on?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's definitely where we're going moving forward. Sustainability is always been around, but I don't think there was a lot of attention focused on it.
Right.
But I think over the past couple of years, it's customers and suppliers are really looking for ways to be innovative and sustainable,
right.
And really help with the environmental impacts throughout the globe that we see every day.
Right. Exactly. And so, because we speak to supplier organizations or professionals in order to cash and accounts receivable, we always try to pick the brains of experts like yourself and ask, what do suppliers typically struggle with as part of an organization's supply chain? Because we see suppliers come and go. Most companies have their key strategic suppliers that are of great importance to their supply chain, and keeps them in business. But we have a lot of suppliers that go by the wayside for various reasons. And so, from your perspective, what do suppliers struggle with when they try to partner with key customers in providing goods and services?
So I'll answer that maybe with a little bit of a twist. So, looking at it from a customer's perspective, right, and having suppliers, I know I've kind of faced this in the past, and a lot of my clients currently face this. It's really communication with suppliers.
Right.
Suppliers, historically, some are, have been great at communication. Some have not been so much, even when, the customer asks the suppliers to communicate with, to them on different things, they've been a little bit hesitant to do that. But I guess some examples are, sometimes suppliers don't ship on time or they short
Right.
ship and there's no communication to the customer. And obviously, this causes a huge ripple effect right in the
Yep.
supply chain. It causes production delays on, raw material, which also impacts, the end customer delays in terms of finished product.
Mhm.
A lot of my clients ask also for data from suppliers like ASN, which is Advanced Ship Notification grant, which basically says, okay, that, we've shipped your product. So it gives them kind of that snapshot that, that it's left our facility.
Right.
And granted, a lot of them don't have technology, if some of the suppliers in Asia may not have that technology, but they still could provide that data, right, to give the customer more visibility.
Mhm.
And a lot of them, just won't do that.
Mm.
Another thing that I've heard from my clients is they really want production data information. So not detailed really production data, but
Mhm.
they want to know kind of what's being run, when it's being run, and that type of information that the customers are asking for and not getting it. Because I mean, if you get production data, obviously that's going to help you plan better, right? So,
Mhm.
and you can work with the supplier if you need to, move something out, pull something forward, etc. So I think communication really is the key.
Right.
I think suppliers, are doing better with that. But like I said, even, current customers and the customers I've had in the past year have still been struggling with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, and that's important because, being a communicator myself, communication is important. And I'm sure it could be very maddening for customers who see changes but don't get a corresponding corresponding communication to explain what changes occurred, what customers should be on the lookout for, and how so they can prepare their production schedules and other things on their end. So that's of great importance, and thank you for sharing that. And so with that in mind, how should suppliers address those challenges? And from your perspective, what should they do to ensure they remain a reliable preferred supplier within that supply chain? Because again, our audience are those supplier organizations, those AR, order to cash professionals. And some do very well, but some struggle. And I'm sure they'd love to know what recipe would help them be successful in engaging with their customers.
So I think, it really is up to the supplier and the customer. It can't be a, one-way street.
Right.
So I'll go back to really, kind of what I said earlier is they should be really forming those partnerships. The customer and the supplier should both, be on board and really establishing that partnership. So it should really be a collaborative effort where both parties, the supplier and the customer, work together to drive innovation, like we talked about a minute ago, and sustainability,
Right.
really looking at quality and pricing efforts. So all of that should be, really worked on by both parties, like I said.
Right.
So my suggestion is, or I have a couple suggestions.
Mhm.
One is, contracts don't always work, but a lot of the times they are there to help really both parties. So
Right.
I would say, my suggestion is when you can have a great contract where both parties benefit.
Mhm.
Another suggestion is, work with your supplier to create a scorecard so
Mm.
everyone's on the same page on what KPIs will be measured and what the goals and objectives are.
Right.
So you don't want one party deciding what those KPIs or, key performance indicators are going to be. You want both parties to align on those.
Mhm.
Tie that into really cadenced reviews with suppliers. I prefer in person if possible. I just think it helps to, again, kind of, establish that relationship.
Mhm.
So if you can do them in person, that's great. If not, you can certainly do them, on a Teams or Zoom. But you want to review those scorecards and go over root cause and determine corrective action. So it's not just, okay, here are the metrics and here's where we landed, but what happened and how can we work together to basically correct this going forward. I really like to visit, and I encourage customers to visit their suppliers' production facilities,
Mm.
do an audit, right? Make
Right.
sure that they're adhering to the contractual agreements, check the quality of the products being produced.
Mhm.
And then you can, begin to work with the supplier on any non-conformance. But I think it just gives you a great, it gives you great visibility to actually go there, meet with them, again, kind of have that face-to-face interaction, but actually I also see what they're doing at the production facility.
Yeah.
And then I'd say lastly, work with your suppliers on what data you need as a customer to help your supply chain, like we talked earlier, whether it be, forecast information shared back and forth, production data, transportation and logistics information, work with them on that and make sure that, that you're getting, or that both parties actually are getting the data and information they need. Some, like I said, may not have that technical capability. So, work together to decide on a method that works best for both parties. And again, I can't, say it enough. Just make sure this is a long-term partnership where continuous improvement is on the forefront of both parties.
Right. Right. And so we talk about data, and I'm a big fan of leveraging data because I always say data is everywhere, but the challenge is capturing it and then leveraging it. And so why do you think supplier organizations struggle with capturing and leveraging data?
Again, I think it's probably just sometimes it could be the overload of information. They don't know how to get it and slice and dice it to where it's in a format that customers need. It could also be that they could potentially, I've seen where they have the data, but they don't really have the staff, the analytical staff. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have a data scientist on staff, but you need, really very, very good analytical people on your team to manage through that data. And then sometimes it's just a matter of data is maybe not a priority, which it really should be. I mean, data drives everything. It drives, it should anyway. It should drive all of your decisions. It tells your company what direction they're heading in. If they're going to meet their numbers, if they're not. It gives you basically all the answers that you need as long as you are, like you said, getting that capturing that data, slicing and dicing, leveraging that data in the appropriate ways.
Right, right. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Savvy Report. Tara, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
So we touched on some very helpful information about what customers do to better manage their supply chains and what supplier organizations can do, and those in accounts receivable and order to cash can do to ensure they overcome obstacles and remain a preferred supplier. And you can find more information about Bertishaw Supply Chain Solutions by visiting the LinkedIn page, which we'll put in the description. And so thank you all for joining me and my guest, Tara Bertishaw, on this episode of the Savvy Report. I'm Ernie Martin, and we'll see you next time.